Well, we welcome you all to Hungaroring ahead of the fourth stop on the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine 2025 calendar. With Group A to kick us off for this weekend. We're looking forward to this one, given the fact that the renovations have now taken place here at Hungaroring, ready for the Hungarian Grand Prix that's due to come in a matter of weeks or so's time. We have, of course, got warm temperatures across the skies. Track temperature currently a very steady 35 degrees or so, very nearly 36. The air temperature, however, 21.7, and will only rise heading through the course of the morning, heading into the late day. And so far this season, it has been a very hotly contested championship with 5 different winners since the very start of the season as we got underway all the way back at Misano earlier this year, with Freddie Slater, our current championship leader, taking 2 victories, one at Spa and one in our last round at Zandvoort as well. He now leads the championship ahead of Matteo De Carlo, who took his very first win in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine back at Misano as well. Evan Gilter be to recover after a very tricky start to his campaign. It started well at Misano, but things kind of petered off heading through the Spa and later Zandvoort weekends. And then, of course, Enzo Dellini, who has been ever so consistent, 3rd in the championship so far behind De Paolo. And finally, it took a little bit of time, but eventually it came. Pedro Clero, a victor back at Zandvoort in Van Amersfoort Racing's home weekend back at the Dutch circuit. So it meant so much to them. And I can only imagine they'll be looking to that performance to kick on ahead of our first qualifying session here of the weekend. We're just taking a look at the drivers making their way around the circuit already. Jin Nakamura, we've got to talk about him. Of course, fastest in collective test 1, managing to marshal in a 1:39.242. And RACE GP as a whole have the best record in the championship at this circuit. We go back the last few years. It all began, of course, back in 2022. That was our first venture here under the guise of the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. And Hadrian David, who is here this weekend, coming out on pole position in Q2 back then, and then after that managing to go and take the checkered flag race victory in race 2 after Kaz Havercourt did the same. Van Amersfoort will be looking back to the echelons of when Kaz Havercourt went on to win at this circuit as well back in 2022, hoping that they can ignite once again here in 2025. But furthermore, on the topic of RACE GP, Martinius Stenshorner, of course, was on pole back in 2023 as well. He went on to win the race back-to-back, race 1 and race 2 for RACE GP, despite not being on pole in qualifying 2. But then, of course, the year after, current FIA Formula 3 driver Tuukka Tappinen went right through the weekend, not just in terms of taking pole positions, but also race wins, going from lights to flag in both the first and second races last year, but also taking the fastest laps of the sessions as well. Truly remarkable from the Finn. But now RACE GP with, of course, Jin Nakamura in their pocket. They also have Akshay Bora, who we just so recently witnessed as well, making his way around the circuit. But also Enzo Dellini, and I remarked on his astonishing consistency so far this campaign, managing to marshal in some decent points finishes at Misano to kick his season off, but it really kicked on at Spa-Francorchamps, where he managed to land podium positions in both race 1 and, of course, later on in race 2 with the victory, his first victory in this championship. And then Zandvoort as well, once again taking 10 points in the first race. And then in the second race, it was a brilliant points finish as well, managing to land himself yet another spot, this time in P4 on that occasion. More to come, though, I can imagine, from all drivers on the circuit. We also have some newbies joining the championship as well. G4 Racing have ushered in Edu Robinson and Enzo Rischer. Edu Robinson actually stepping into this machinery. We got a chance to speak to him yesterday. He's really looking forward to stepping into these cars. Of course, coming into this championship is the man from G4 from Manacor in Spain, only 16 years of age, the Italian, English, Spanish heritage driver, of course, a former junior Spanish karting champion. Took a podium in Ginetta Juniors back in 2023 in the final race of the season at Donington, but since then, Italian F4 and Euro 4 last year with US Racing and AS Motorsport, and has taken part also in the Formula Winter Series, as well as Spanish F4 through the course of the earlier parts of this year, as we now watch as the 15 makes its way around. Aditya Kulkarni already posting a reasonably fast time in the opening sector. Joining Edu Robinson, of course, Enzo Rischer, coming in from coming in from Luxembourg, was 19 years of age, coming in from Ultimate Cup, taking part in the Formula Series over there, becoming its champion last year, and also taking part in the Ultimate Cup European Series in the prototypes last campaign as well, and has also taken select starts, taking one start in the Euro Formula Open Championship back in 2024 as well. So 2 additional names joining Edouard Borgner at G4. We also have some movements elsewhere. Zachary David in for his first start since leaving RSGP, now moving into CL Motorsport for the start of this season. Already taken part in pre-season testing, but this is his first official race with the team this weekend as we now watch the cars make their way around with 8 minutes and 30 or so to go. Just to let you all know, Enzo Dellini currently posting the first fastest time. Of course, nothing necessarily representative so far. We alluded to the collective test times, Jin Nakamura being fastest in CT1, doing the 1:39.242. We're currently seeing 1:47.1 at the top of our timing screen right now. That's what Enzo Dellini has currently posted. I can tell you he's gone purple again in the first sector. So we now watch as the 74 of Ian Eichmans, who really caused a stir in collective test 2. And let me just say, speaking of collective test, Eichmans with a 1:39.107, a little bit faster than Jin Nakamura on day 2. But of course, new drivers do get that additional set of Pirelli tyres just to help them along and blend them into the championship. And that will, of course, give him a good footing heading into the start of the campaign. But he is jumping straight out of F4 machinery into the F3 car. Brought to you by Tatus, as well as Enzo Dellini improves on his time as well. And that's a significant improvement into the 140s now, 140.7. Still more to come, though, as we now witness Freddie Slater. Of course, purple now himself in the first 2 sectors, finding some decent improvements. Now goes fastest ahead of Jin Nakamura so far. So Nakamura ahead of Dellini as it stands. We also have Pedro Clero finding improvements in his first sector too. Plenty of green lighting up the timing screen now as Michael Belov goes first fastest in his return as well to the championship. Once again, he's just gone fastest in the speed trap, but so have, incidentally, 5 others. We have got 5 drivers all matching the same speed in the speed trap, which is no less remarkable, that's for sure. Pedro Clero, though, purple in the first sector. He's gone green in the middle, was purple. That was taken away by Nandavad Biram-Bhakti. As we now take a look at our race winner from Zandvoort, finally it has come. And obviously, Clero has shown plenty of signs of potential greatness in terms of results so far. And he'll be hoping that Zandvoort is the start of something massive for the team. Goes fastest now overall and registers the first 1:38 of the session. That's a 1:38.9. And now Nandavad Biram-Bhakti pops up to first fastest as well on his return as well. A 1:38.683. And just over 2 1/4 tenths faster than Pedro Clero at the moment. Enzo Dellini back with a bang, though. 2 hundredths up in sector 1. And now coming into the middle sector, finds a little bit more than that. You can add near enough another 1/10 on top of that coming through that middle sector now as he looks to now sprint towards the line. And goes fastest once again, and that is a 1:38.424. To go quickest of anybody. And of course, he'll be looking to continue the legacy that RSGP have left in recent years here at Hungaroring. And like I said, this is, of course, the first time we're witnessing the new renovations as Slater goes fastest now off his last lap. Rui Hangye, Enzo Yer into 3rd with Nikita Bedrin down in 4th. And now, as a result, Jin Nakamura moving down to 6th, as is Akshay Bora further down. Of course, Ian Eichmans coming in as a rookie. We mentioned, of course, his CT time. But here now in this series, joining RPM, led by Keith Donegan, the Belgian, 17 years of age, an international karting champion, winner of the Richard Millet Young Talent Academy Shootout, and was racing in Spanish F4 with MP Motorsport as well, but now moving up a level, and I must say was not deterred by the, should we say, increased power that these cars all, possess over the F4 technology that we have obviously seen. And many of these drivers would have seen lifting themselves up through the motorsport ladder before then coming into the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. And it's been great to see this young man develop so far through the course of the weekend, and already giving us some really remarkable, I suppose, displays in free practice. We'll see how that fares at the very end of the session. We've got 4 minutes and 30 to go. It is still Freddie Slater up and on top. A couple of the drivers now going off for cool runs, not wanting to burn that rubber up too much. Of course, we know that this track can increase the deg levels quite a bit, just given the nature of the track itself. You've got these very progressive right-handers, such as this one, which very much opens up grounds for the tyre tread to kind of seep away. But you've got to be so wary as well of the curbs, and especially at this chicane, which has caught quite a few off guard on numerous occasions. You can really find yourselves pirouetting on top of the race curves here. So we now watch Adichie Kulkarni making his way around the circuit as well. We've got Michael Belov with a personal best and also purple as well coming out of the first sector. Of course, he'd be looking to try and find something a little bit better for himself. But a veteran now you could classify in this series has really brought together a distinguished run in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. Of course, 22 years of age coming into this season. And formerly of Formula Academy Finland back in 2018, winning that championship with 2 wins and 7 podiums. Here now is Adichie Kulkarni. 2 decent improvements in the first sectors now. Slater's time still to beat. Delaney, though, 11 thousandths away from our current championship leader. The time to beat at the moment, 1:38.413. It'll be the final runs now being ushered in here in Group A. We'll be seeing very shortly. Pedro Clero, who was showing the fastest sectors. Nandavad Birenbakti from Trident now, however, knocking on the door. Of course, part of a very popular GT racing family in the Birenbaktis. They frequent GT quite often. Birenbakti now goes to the top with a 1:38.215, and that's our fastest time now with a 1:38.215. So we've well and truly surpassed the fastest collective test times by a whole second now. Clero has gone second fastest. Enzo Delaney now also up on his previous best and also ushering in a purple middle sector as well. So more to come here from the young man from our race. Victor back at Spa, now looking to head to the top once more here in qualifying, and does so with a blistering 1:37.883. Great lap there. Birenbakti reduced to second. Bora in third. We got Freddie Slater now about to come across the line as well, and he now moves into second fastest, 300ths away from Delaney at the top of the shop. As now Akshay Bora will move across the line. Nikita Bedrin moves up into third place ahead of Nandavad Birenbakti. This time Slater will be looking to find something else now with 2 minutes to go. There he is. The young Brit, of course, has made quite the name for himself through the realms of F4. It all started, of course, with his karting career, kicking things off for him. Has won various different championships, an FIA karting European champion in OK Junior back in 2021. And after that, in 2022, Ginetta Juniors Winter Series champion. And then in 2023, went on to win the Ginetta Juniors Championship with 16 victories that year as well. Joined Prema for Italian F4 then the following year in 2024. And since then, it's been nothing but success. Victories in Italian F4 with 15 wins, breaking, of course, the record set in place by Andrea Kimi Antonelli and also Dennis Hauger as well. So carries quite the CV, does the young man. And we'll see where this leads him. Of course, could not quite win the Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship because Evan Gilter was his contender for that series. And it was Gilter who came out victorious in that one. 50 or so seconds to go. We're now witnessing the final laps come in. At the moment, Enzo Delaney's time cannot be beat, but I'd imagine potentially one more run could be on the cards. Quite a bit of traffic though. Slater having to dodge and weave in front of, well, just behind the 2 RAce GPs, and he's looking to try and find some clear track space, but he's being bogged down a little bit. You've got the 11 out on track. That's Jin Nakamura. He's managed to get past Jin right now, so just slowing down before getting started on one final last chance to dance here around Budapest. Here in Q1, 20 seconds remain now on the timer. So we watch the 23 of Enzo Delaney makes his way down through towards turn 1. Here comes Slater. Michael Belov with a personal best in that middle sector, but not enough to make a grandiose improvement. That is 11th fastest for Michael Belov so far. He needs to find something a little better than that to lift himself higher up the order. CL Motorsport, of course, a new team here this season. Now Zachary David making his first start in the championship. We will, of course, see him in our next group. They head out onto the track, of course, moving away from RAce GP. Personal best in the first sector from Nandavad Birenbakti. Pedro Clero also finding green in that middle sector. He's currently down in 6th place. And remember, coming off the back of that victory in our last round at Zandvoort, at Van Amersfoort Racing's home race here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine. He's 97 thousandths up on his time at the moment, now looking to go fastest ahead of Enzo Delaney, and does so. So Van Amersfoort now in control of Group A. with a 1:37.823. That's a brilliant time for Pedro Clero, but the question is, can anybody answer? There is green in the first sector for Enzo Zellini. Also Akshay Bora, not forgetting Ian Eichmann, who really caused the stir in CT2. Checkered flag now out. Heading down the home straight, personal best for Jin Nakamura in the middle sector. It's going to be a large contest coming into the final sector now. Plenty of drivers improving in the middle. The first sectors, though, could be the defining one. Enzo Zellini, the middle sector's defining. He's lost so much time in the middle. I can only imagine maybe traffic being an issue at this moment, as Akshay Bora goes purple in the third sector and goes fourth fastest. Freddie Slater can't go any higher than third as the 22 of Pedro Clero comes into the pits. And it looks like that's all she wrote. It's Pedro Clero, fresh off the back of a stellar performance last time at Zandvoort. He is on top again, and just look at this. The number 7 kicking into the gravel, pivoting, and that is Nandavad Bhiram, who's now facing the wrong way. The car semi-self-rights itself, but that certainly isn't going to help you list a improved lap time towards the end of a session. So it is Pedro Clero, your fastest man in qualifying 1 Group A. With a 1:37.823, he goes fastest. Enzo Zellini in second as well for RS GP. Freddie Slater in third. Akshay Bora in fourth. Nikita Bedra in fifth. Nandavad Bhiram in sixth place, with Taito Kato in seventh. And then, of course, we have Jin Nakamura 8th, Ian Eichmann in 9th, Enzo Yair in 10th, with Michael Belov in 11th, Aditya Kulkarni in 12th, Edu Robinson in 13th, and Sakir Al-Malshari in 14th. And the returning Maya Berg as well, down in 15th place, fresh off the back of her stint, once again in F1 Academy, of course, part of the Ferrari driver program. And she, of course, returning here for her 3rd season appearance here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine as well, with a new team in Santalok Racing. And we look forward to seeing her race through the course of the weekend as well. But it's Clero who is clear here at Hungaroring, and he'll be looking to hold the cards. But as we all know, the second group do tend to get somewhat of an advantage, with the Pirelli rubber being laid down early in the morning by, of course, the drivers going out for the early runs in quali. But, of course, it'll be roles reverse heading into race 2 on Sunday, where, of course, Group B will be the first group heading out onto the circuit. And therefore, they'll put the rubber down first for Group A to then take the second run in the stint. But as you can now see, the brand new grandstand lit up here at Hungaroring. It certainly is a pleasure to see, and no question, it's going to make some serious strides for the return of the certainly the race at Hungary in the Formula One World Championship, of course, the Hungarian Grand Prix that will be arriving later this year. It's an honour, obviously, for ourselves here in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine to get a first taste of the brand new renovations that have been put in place, the new look grandstands that the many fans that come down and, of course, tune in and also venture down and watch the young junior single-seaters make their way around the circuit. Of course, many of these young drivers could yet find themselves on the road to Formula One to follow in the footsteps of the likes of Andrea Kimi, Antonelli, and also, of course, Gabriel Bortoletto, Isaac Hadjar, who, of course, raced in this series back in 2021. Incidentally, Isaac Hadjar was a rookie champion back that year with RSGP as well. Of course, Gabriel Bortoletto not quite able to take the championship back in 2022. That went to Dino Beganovic for Prema Racing. But we have seen some great champions come out of 22 as well, in the likes of Leonardo Fornaroli, who was the rookie champion that year. Of course, now has since gone on to win the Formula 3 championship and is very much in the fight for the F2 title as well. And, of course, Kimi Antonelli taking the championship in 2023. And, of course, last year, Rafael Camara winning the championship and now doing very well, now joining F3 for the 2025 season. We're now back underway, this time for the Group B session, heading out onto the circuit. And we're going to have the likes of Edouard Borgner, Enzo Richer, Ruiki Liu, Hayu Yamakoshi, Matteo De Palo, Zachary David in his first appearance here this season. We also have Rashid Al-Dahiri, of course, the Mercedes Junior, Kanato Lei, and Dorian Pan, of course, also frequenting F1 Academy, much like Maya Berg over recent years, and has been a shining light, without question, for the Mercedes Junior team and as a Mercedes factory driver as well. Javier Segura, of course, lining up on his return back to the championship, the first time in a couple of years since we've seen Javier Segura, who was also taking part in the Eurocup 3 championship last year, becoming runner-up. could have so easily become its champion as well. And it's great to have Javier Segura back after competing as well. 6 appearances in FIA F3 not too long ago. Jack Beaton as well returning, the young Aussie, ever the charismatic young man. Jack Beaton, who pulled off arguably one of the moves of the season so far back at Misano. Dion Gouda, current rookie championship leader as well, making an appearance for Van Amersfoort Racing, who have just witnessed Pedro Clero go fastest in Group A. Evan Gilter, who's looking for an upward turn in his fortunes. And I mentioned that things haven't necessarily gone to plan for poor Evan Gilter so far. Since Misano, of course, the best result he's managed to muster was 4th at Spa. And since then, he was outside of the points in race 2 at Spa. And then later on in Zandvoort, a very tough visit, of course, finishing 16th twice over in race 1 and race 2. Really needs an upturn in his fortunes to help his championship cause. And, of course, we highly anticipated Evan Gilter to definitely be a championship contender based on what we saw in the Formula Regional Middle Eastern Championship, where he was taking on various contenders for this year's European Championship. And at the moment, the man he beat to the Middle Eastern Championship, Freddie Slater, is now holding the championship lead heading into this Hungarian weekend. But still plenty of opportunity. And the one thing we do know about Hungaroring, it does offer plenty in the way of thrills and spills. We also welcome back as well Jaroslav Vesalo and also Giovanni Maschio as well as part of RPM, who also had a very action-packed round back at Zandvoort. Of course, it can be tricky in the wet conditions, and it almost turns on and on, off and on like a tap, really, the rain, when you make your way over to the location of the Dutch Grand Prix. But we now watch as the cars make their way around just to get the rubber warmed up. Now take a look at Enzo Richer, who's now making his way around the circuit. We welcome him to the championship here this time around. Of course, the young man from Luxembourg. Now coming into a car that he's familiar with, but a different tyre set to what he's familiar with, as we were talking to him after quali. So it's, whilst obviously the chassis may be the same, what you're adopting on the chassis itself, the very rubber that takes you around this circuit is very different. So it's been a mission to get used to for young Enzo Richer, but we do wish him well as he now makes his way around for the first qualifying session of the weekend. So here we have it, Champ Eaton coming out of the chicane now, also being met by the 99 of Giovanni Maschio. There is Rashid Al-Dahiri in the very familiar Yas Heat livery as well. And we've got to give our congratulations to Rashid Al-Dahiri. I spoke to his father yesterday, of course, recently a graduate as part of his education as well. So not just doing the business out on track is Rashid Al-Dahiri, but also in terms of his academics as well. And we do wish him very well too. With 11 minutes now to take us through to the end. Of course, the time to beat a 1:37.823 that was put together by Van Amersfoort Racing's Pedro Clero. Has anyone got the bottle to beat it here and now? You definitely expect so, given the nature of the conditions we have out on track. A nice, clear, dry day with lots of sunshine. Shouldn't take too long for the track to heat up either. Currently, it's ramped up to 37.9 degrees. Air temperature now a little bit bigger, or slightly enlarged than before, now 22.6. So we watch them head down through towards turn 1. There's Rashid Al-Dahiri now looking to pivot his Yas Heat liveried Prema through towards turn 2. He's got his teammate behind him as well, with Jack Beaton. Or should I say Dorian Pan? I do apologise. Dorian Pan making her way around the course there for Prema. It's the young 21-year-old from Ivry-sur-Seine in France. The French kart champion back in 2019 has since gone on to do various wonderful things in the world of motorsport, racing in the Clio Cup in 2020, but the Le Mans Cup, taking several podiums in 2021, 2022, and Ferrari Challenge European Trofeo Pirelli, winning that one, and then class winner in Spa 24-hour as well that same year, and joining the Mercedes Junior team in 2023. She's certainly had plenty of experience behind the wheel and taking part in the F1 Academy Championship. Really made a name for herself after winning the first race of that 2024 campaign at Jeddah. Now we welcome her back once again to the FRECA series. See whether she can muster something here this weekend at Hungary. That's for sure. Of course, Prema have had their close calls through the course of the season. We look back at Spa, where both Slater and Dorian met coming through turn 1, and unfortunately That didn't help their cause, a retirement in race 2 back at Spa, but that was very quickly put behind them, with Slater taking back-to-back podiums in Zandvoort as well, as Ruikilu now goes fastest in the first sector with a time that improves by 2.8 to 3 seconds. So far, Jack Beaton going 4th fastest. Matteo De Paolo currently ushering in the first time onto the board. It's 1:48.026, so still very early days. We watch the 45 of Jack Beaton now power out of turn 1, heading through towards turn 2. The young 17-year-old from the Gold Coast in Australia. Karting national champion as well, much like his father, who is also a former karting national champion in his own right. Always with a smile on his face, Jack Beaton will be hoping to provide, more smiles for his team this season. Of course, Prema with a great run so far as Enzo Richer goes first fastest. Ruikilu currently purple in the first and second sectors for Trident in the number 5. Still very early days at the moment. 1:45.655, the only 1:45 on the timing screen at the moment that Richer is currently planted, but we are expecting something more in line with a 1:37 in the number. Yamakoshi moving into 12th as well. Great to see Hayu Yamakoshi in full flow for Van Amersfoort, the young Japanese talent from Tokyo. 18 years old. Racing this season with Van Amersfoort Racing, and it truly was a breakthrough round for Van Amersfoort, really. When you look at the results, Hayu Yamakoshi pulled together 2 second places in a row. He's actually on a run of second places from race 2 back at Spa to Zandvoort at the end of race 2. And a little moment there for poor Enzo Richer, just making his way on the off section of the track, taking a little bit of an uncomfortable run, but safely back on. Certainly not falling foul to what the likes of Nandavud Biram-Bhakti suffered, where his rear end was uprooted coming through the right-hand out of turn 5. But you can just see how much these drivers are really pushing to the limits to usher in improved lap times. The number 8 of Matteo De Paolo, of course, who really made a name for himself for Trident, taking an astonishing victory for the team. And that was their first victory, their first success in the Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine back at Misano, and at a home race as well for Maurizio Salvadori's team, as now Matteo De Paolo currently purple in the first 2 sectors. Purple in the first sector now for Rashid Al-Dahiri, takes the time away from Matteo De Paolo as we now begin to kick off. 35.119, or 118, I should say, in that middle sector for Matteo De Paolo, who now goes fastest straight away with a purple final sector time. It's now starting to ramp up already, a 1:38.033. We're already very close to Pedro Clero's fastest time, so the benchmark being laid down here, certainly in Group B, so far as Group B is concerned. Matteo De Paolo laying down that first benchmark relatively early on. 6 minutes to go. Of course, Dion Gouda currently second fastest as well with a 1:38.944. Purple, though, for Rashid Al-Dahiri in the first 2 sectors. Ruikilu has gone 3rd fastest ahead of Evan Gilter. Kanato Lay now up into 2nd. There is Rashid Al-Dahiri in the Yasheed style Prema. Obviously still looking to chase his first victory of the season, but wouldn't expect anything less from a young man who has definitely not pulled any punches so far this campaign. Looked really sharp in our first round back at Misano, and is sharp again with a fast time, and that's a 1:38.031 to go 2 thousandths faster than Matteo De Paolo so far. Wonderful return for him. We're now only a mere 2 tenths, inside 2 tenths away from finding our fastest time overall. Question is, will it be Pedro Clero hanging on to it? Will he be starting on pole position ahead of our first race of the weekend? There is our fastest man here in Group B so far, 1:38.031 for Rashid Al-Dahiri. The young 17-year-old from Abu Dhabi, Mercedes junior driver. Took part in the F4 United Arab Emirates back last year, finishing 4th in the championship with 2 wins and 5 podiums. Raced with Prema as well in 2023, an Italian F4, finishing 10th that season with 2 4th place finishes. Has definitely grown through his time in motorsport and really finding his feet. And so far this season, in what has to be said, the most competitive start to a Formula Regional European Championship by Alpine season I think we've had on record so far, with, of course, 5 different race winners taking us through since the start of the campaign. Now we This is the cars really being pushed to the limit here. You can just hear the tyres squealing as they head around this Hungaroring track. Javier Segura currently 14th fastest, obviously now a personal best in the first sector. His last lap was a 1:55.572, so definitely a cool-down run after posting a 1:43.42. It's currently 2.3 seconds off the top. That, of course, was the time that Rashid Al-Dahiri had submitted. Giovanni Maschio looking to recover after a tricky round back at Zandvoort for RPM. And goes 8th fastest for Keith Donegan's team, just by Dion Gouda. And inside 9.5 tenths, just outside 9.25 tenths away from Rashid Al-Dahiri's 1:38.031. Purple in the first sector now for Matteo De Paolo, who's now looking to return to the top and take the placing away from Rashid Al-Dahiri. This could be our first instance of where we could find a driver break through past Pedro Clero's 1:37.823 time. So let's see whether De Paolo can pull this off. He's currently 2 thousandths behind Rashid Al-Dahiri in terms of the times that have been registered, but De Paolo purple again in the middle sector. It's a 34.8 in that middle sector. And looking now to raise the stakes. There he is now. A massive 410s fan. This will almost certainly push him ahead of Pedro Clero, but needs to, first of all, make his way around the final corner here at Hungaroring as he now exits out of turn 14 up towards the line. Matteo De Paolo, will it be faster? Overall, it's a 1:37.806, and that does mean that is our fastest time now on the board for Matteo De Paolo. So he will, as it stands provisionally, be on pole. Ruiki Liu in 3rd fastest as well, ahead of Jack Beaton, who's currently 4th. Dorian Pan was 5th fastest, now down to 6th as Dion Gouda goes 4th. Here comes now Evan Gilter, who goes 11th fastest. Hasn't quite come up with the numbers just yet, but Rashid Al-Dahiri, 2 personal bests. In the first 2 sectors, he's gone purple, in fact, in the middle as well. So looking to instantly reply against Matteo De Paolo this time with just over 2 minutes to go. Here he comes now. Rashid Al-Dahiri, can he improve? Does improve, but not by enough to go first fastest. 37 thousandths away from Matteo De Paolo. So despite being purple in the middle, the final sector did not deliver, even despite the personal best in the first sector. So therefore will remain behind Matteo De Paolo. We've got personal best for Yaroslav Vasalo, who's currently towards the rear. He goes 13th fastest. Javier Segura now at the bottom of this 15-car contingent. We now watch Matteo De Paolo making his way around the circuit. Of course, his last victory coming all the way back at our first race of the season at Misano, but it was a no less important one. It was a fantastic victory, had to be said, and he backed that up with a 3rd place finish in race 2. Those early podium visits setting the tone for a championship lead before heading into Spa, where he would finish 2nd again. It was a 3-time consecutive podium visit for Matteo De Paolo to kickstart the season, though it hasn't really formulated again since that point. Of course, finishing 6th back at Spa in race 2, and then, of course, Zandvoort finishing 7th, 6th then after that first race. 6th place in race 2, 7th in race 1. As we now wait for the cool-down laps to come in, very soon they will head out for their final runs. Matteo De Paolo is still your fastest man, though, at this stage, and his fastest overall, ahead of Pedro Clero's 1:37.823 time. Mere hundredths between them, really. If anything, that just shows what a great lap that was from Pedro Clero to put it together to go fastest in his group, but no less competitive than Matteo De Paolo, despite the improvement and despite the rubber being laid down for the second group. We now witness the 19 going sideways, coming through out of turn 4. A little bit of a moment there for Canato Lay. As now Matteo De Paolo goes fastest again in the first sector, 34 thousandths improvement. That's purple again. Of course, the fastest lap to beat is the one he laid down of a 1:37.806. This could be a perfect reply to, as I said, not achieving those podium visits in the last 3 occasions we've gone racing. Could be looking to put that to bed. Obviously, very tricky to overtake around Hungaroring. They call it Monaco without walls for a reason. 34 thousandths up here, Matteo De Paolo, and he's purple again in the middle sector, 34.808. Out of the middle, we've got personal bests as well for Hayu Yamakoshi, Kanato Lay, Dion Gouda, Evan Gilter as well. Also, Ruiki Liu coming out of the middle sector, also with a personal best. Zachary David for CL Motorsport, currently 6th fastest for the team, which is great to see. As now Matteo De Paolo comes out of turn 14 now. Foot down to the floor. As now he makes his way up towards the line. Will it be a rampant improvement? It will be a very nice improvement. He now goes beyond 4/10 in front of Rashid Al Dahiri. So De Paolo laying down the hammer as the checkered flag comes out. No time left. It's got to be now. It's now or never. Javier Segura can only go 11th fastest. Hayu Yamakoshi moves up to 3rd. Ruiki Liu now down to 4th fastest. We await Rashid Al Dahiri, who has not improved in the middle sector. Jack Beaton currently down in 6th. Can he find something after finding a personal best? As now Evan Gilter announces himself and goes 3rd fastest. It took a little while, but eventually it arrived. Now, what about the rest of them? What about Jack Beaton? Beaton improves to 5th fastest ahead of Ruiki Liu. Segura down in 12th. Giovanni Maschio in front of him in 11th. Dorian Pan will finish 9th fastest as well. And Zachary David, no improvement from 10th. He will remain there as Yaroslav Vasalo moves his way into 13th off the bottom, planting Enzo Riche towards the rear of this Group B field. But it's Matteo De Paolo. He will be your pole sitter heading into the first race of the weekend. The man from Trident back on top here this time around for the Italian Trident team. Rashid Al Dahiri in 2nd. Evan Gilter managing to masterclass his way up into 3rd in Group B, ahead of Hayu Yamakoshi for Van Amersfoort. Jack Beaton into 5th. Ruiki Liu in 6th. Kanato Lei in 7th. Dion Gauda in 8th. Dorian Pan 9th. Zachary David in 10th place as well. Giovanni Maschio 11th. Javier Segura in 12th. Yaroslav Vasalo in 13th. And then Edouard Borgner, Enzo Riche in 15th place. So a wonderful visit, certainly, from Matteo De Paolo on top once again. And that, I'm sure, is going to taste so sweet. His first pole position of the season. And we'll see whether he can convert it. Do join us as we make our way into our first race of the weekend here at Hungaroring. We'll see you this afternoon. Goodbye.
Rock.